Howdy everyone, yes it is that time, and I've got a disturbing movie that I'm going to review for you today. So, if you're kind of shocked or don't like to hear about things such as extreme, rape and horror and that, you may want to avoid this. But we're going to review I Spit on Your Grave. Yes, another remake. And not only that, a remake of this cult classic banned in many countries, severely disturbing on so many layers. Of original film has its remake done, and I don't know why. You can't hit lightning twice, okay? First, you've got a decent cast in here of younger actors. You got Sarah Butler in here, who does play the great, kind of meeker-looking actress, which you needed for this role. You needed someone who kind of looked a little vulnerable, rather than like a Michelle Rodriguez, I'm going to kick your ass if you look at me wrong type of look. Okay, so she had the look down. She looked a lot like the original actress, okay? She even had the big sunglasses, which I got a kick out of, okay? And then you had the rednecks, a couple of them being played by Jeff Branson. He had Andrew Howard in there, to name a few of playing the rednecks, and I didn't buy into them. I'm sorry, they looked too Hollywood. Okay, in the original, they pulled these guys, I swear, right out of the backwoods and said, stand in front of the camera. These guys were too Hollywood looking. They looked too set up. Okay, and you also had, the big surprise was Bobby himself. Yes, the Joker's henchman. You had Tracy Walter in it. I like Tracy Walter. He was a surprise cast member in this film. I really liked his role in it. The short part of this, just because I got a soft spot for Tracy Walter. He's a great actor. But the story, as you may have noticed before, is an actress going to the backwoods in this remote cabin to try to pen a novel, and these rednecks know she's up there by herself and decide to go up there and do very mean and nasty things to her, such as rape and other very nasty, degrading things to them, because they're rednecks, okay? There's not a really deep plot in here. Neither did the original. The original was not deep at all, okay? It was more... the point of the original in that was more of a scene, the woman, what happens to her after such violent acts happen to her, and how she exacts her revenge upon her violators and her attackers, okay? And the original, just so many layers in the original. That's why it was so disturbing, really screw with your head. Not only because of the direction, the really long, not cutting away shots of when the nasty acts are happening to her, but just in general, the look of it, because it was shot on low-budget film, it was in the 70s, very little soundtrack, those are the elements that really made it disturbing. So to do this remake, it was a Hollywoodized version of it, okay? And in the world of the hostels and that, to try to make this as shocking as the original, you're not going to be able to do that with the regulations and just everything. So why even bother? But they bothered, and it did end up being a shell of the original film, okay? Now, don't get me wrong, the couple scenes that they had in there with the girl having the acts performed, the attacks and that were pretty disturbing in the remake, okay? But they were also shorter shot, and there was a lot more cuts in it. In the original, the reason the scenes were really, really disturbing was because it was a long shot. You didn't have a lot of cuts in it. They used more modern making film techniques in this remake, which I think took away from that extra layer of disturbness that you could add to this film, and that what the original had. Also, there was a lot more soundtrack in this one than there was in the original. And like I said, the rednecks were pretty buoyed up. And also just the feel of it. They added a fourth character in the remake, this cop, who ended up being more of a threat to the rednecks than the actual girl did. And the cop also partook in the attacks as well, okay? But he ended up being more of the fear than the girl did. And in the original, what brought the fear out was the guy, the girl coming back and visiting each one of her attackers and offing them in nasty ways, but more natural ways. In the remake, they didn't do that. She did them in more of a Saw style type of killings, and it just didn't feel quite as natural. Felt more set up and more Hollywood, and that's what the remake feels like completely, is a more Hollywood, more set up, more forced version than the original, and that's what took away from it, and that's why lightning doesn't strike twice with most remakes, and I don't know why they bothered with this. I highly recommend it to no one, really. Okay, now if you're a fan of the original and want to draw the parallels and see exactly what they did, go ahead and rent this. Also, the I Spit on Your Grave original, and especially this, are still for select tapes because it is very disturbing subject matter. But on the whole, even as a horror film, it's just kind of an average horror film. If you're looking for that shocking film and impact that the first one was, you don't get it here, folks, and it's really not worth your time. And that'll about do it for us here at the Final Cut. Till next time, keep the